Mr. Fischer, we all have a 5-minute rule which we need to adhere to in order to have everyone have opportunity to say something. Thank you. Ben.
Thank you very much, Ted, for the introduction. Let me please also start by thanking the 3 missions and the European delegation for having organized this event and inviting us, especially for including youth voices, not only on this panel. And I would also like to especially point out the introductory remarks by Ambassador Powers, who specifically also welcomed youth voices, which for me is very unique. Also, I'd like to thank the AJC for making possible that I'm speaking here today. They invited me and supported my travels. Okay, 5 minutes, that's quite a task, especially being on the last panel, but I will try to keep you awake, and I will also try to bring across the 5 points that I want to make. So it's 1 point per minute. And also, we work in 35 countries, so I just have a few seconds per country that I'm actually representing here on that panel today. Okay, first things first, who are we? The European Union of Jewish Students is the umbrella organization of national Jewish student bodies. We operate in 35 countries, and we are the democratic representation of the 160,000 young Jews between the ages of 18 and 35. So don't be confused by the term students in our name. We don't only work with students, we also work with young professionals. What is it that we are doing? And here's the first point that I want to make, number 1. Basically, we advocate for Jewish rights, human rights, and youth rights, using empowerment as a main tool for everything we do. Everything we do is being carried out by young people, for young people, and we do social and political activism. So aside from speaking at international institutions such as the European institutions, we are based in Brussels, the OSCE, and here at the UN. We also do social activism. We do activities and so on. Using empowerment as a main tool means that we try to bring young people as much as possible into positions where they hold responsibility and they're being enabled to speak up on their own behalf. How do we do that? And that's the second point I want to make. We follow the idea that it's important to follow a binary approach when it comes to Jewish advocacy and Jewish activism, which means that we operate within the Jewish community and outside of the Jewish community. And we do this for a variety of reasons, but mainly because we have learned that there are certain activities that should not only address Jews, and there are certain activities that should not address non-Jews. A Shabbat dinner should not necessarily address non-Jews all the time, but maybe sometimes it's quite good to have non-Jews there. To give you another example, we have an annual seminar at Yad Vashem in the International Holocaust School, which is also represented here today. Well, it's an amazing seminar, but maybe it's important to not only bring Jews there, but also to have the 4 or 5 non-Jewish leaders there, which we started doing. We invited non-Jews to our seminars. Why do we do this? And that's the third point that I will speak about a little more briefly. We try to change the narrative on contemporary Judaism. What does that mean? For our work within the community, it means that we think that Jewish identity, not only in Europe, but I'd say that this is actually a global phenomenon, is in a crisis. The foundation of Jewish identity is predominantly built up by negative factors, by a wrong Holocaust education, by a very dogmatic approach to Israel activism, and then lastly, by the exterior threat of antisemitism that especially in Europe many students face on and off campus, but also outside of the Jewish community. How are non-Jews, and I myself am from Germany, all of the classmates I had outside of, I did not only go to Jewish schools, that's important to mention, so all of my non-Jewish classmates, what was their first encounter to Judaism? It was in history classes when they learned about the Holocaust. It was when they watched the news and they learned about the conflict in the Middle East. And then when they met a living Jew for the first time in their life, they were completely confused. They did not know how to deal with me very often. So dehumanizing a person that was never humanized in classes, that you got to know through these negative perceptions, the Holocaust and the conflict in the Middle East, is very easy, especially in Europe, a continent which is dominated by a form of nationalism that is an ethnic nationalism. To give an example, when I in Germany told people that I'm a Jew, I was very often perceived as a non-German. Parts of my family have been living in Germany for centuries. for more than 400, 500 years. But the sheer fact that I was of another religion made me un-German. So this is what I refer to when I speak about changing the narrative for contemporary Judaism. And you can already see that this has a lot to do with changing curricula. How is Judaism being taught? And Myth von Schnurbein referred to this earlier today. We should also learn about the malas, we should speak about Judaism in literature. We should speak about Judaism in music classes, not only in history classes. Can give you later on a few more examples on what I mean by that. Now, I said, and this is the fourth point that I want to make, I said before that we work on Jewish rights and human rights. How do we do that? We believe that Jewish rights are human rights, and human rights are Jewish rights. Why? Because way too often we find ourselves in conferences where Jews speak to Jews about Jews. And we think it leads to nothing. It leads to nothing because, as it has been said so often today, Judaism is not a problem of the Jewish community alone. It is a problem of society as a whole, which means that we should also start speaking to society as a whole and include society as a whole in the work we do. But this also means that if we care about our own rights, we have to care about the rights of our neighbors, of other people in our society that suffer from human rights violations. And this has led to the fifth and last point that I would like to make. On the last panel, we heard a lot about coalition building. Also, EUJS has been focusing on coalition building as one of its main tools in order to combat anti-Semitism and in order to advocate in favor of human rights. We are part of the steering committee of the Muslim Jewish Conference. You've heard Ilya speaking beforehand. We have a series of seminars, which is called Europe of Diasporas, in which we work together with the Roma and the Armenian community in order to, again, jointly advocate on behalf of minority rights, of human rights in Europe. We also have many intra-religious seminars in which we try to bring together different Jewish denominations. Because also within the Jewish communities, we spoke about gender balance. I mean, you have a look at this panel. Have a look at the leadership of Jewish communities all over Europe. Again, taking the binary approach, coalition building sometimes also means that you have to work with other Jewish forces in order to improve the situation of Jewish communities from within. Why? Because we can speak about anti-Semitism constantly, and we can build up our fences higher, and we can make the bulletproof of our school classes thicker. But if inside those classes, if inside those community buildings, we still speak about anti-Semitism, then we've lost the battle against anti-Semitism. So coalition building also a vital tool within and, again, outside of the community. There are many, many, many more examples that I would like to give you about student activism, partially also from my own past as an educator, but I think that's for later. For now, thank you very much, and yeah.
Great, terrific, Ben. Thank you very much for that.